We have got this meeting about to start here. This is the No Kings protest meeting. The organizers of this whole entire event are doing a mobilization call. It's been a little bit tricky to get this on Zoom. Let me know, V's in chat. V's in chat, guys. Let me know if you guys can hear me all good. Hopefully this doesn't give us any tech
Recording in
difficulties.
progress.
I see folks already lighting up the chat, telling us where they're joining from.
We're on, boys.
We have over 2,000 events, the No Kings Day of Action, and so we're going to see a lot of the locations posted there today. We're so happy that you're joining us here tonight. Thank you for being on with us. Hello again to everyone who's joining us on Zoom and on YouTube right now. Welcome, everyone. My name is Danny Negretti, and I am Indivisible's National Political Director, and I am so excited to welcome you all to our pre-mobilization attendee call tonight. Before we get started, I want to go through a little bit of quick housekeeping. We have closed captioning available. You can go ahead and click the CC button on Zoom, or if you're watching from YouTube, you can do the same there as well. We will be sending out a follow-up email after this call with all of the links that we'll be dropping in the chat. And we have a really spectacular speaking lineup tonight from top to bottom, so stay till the end. We're going to hear from leaders from SEIU and UWDA. We're going to discuss important messaging guidance. ACLU will be doing a mini Know Your Rights training towards the end of our call. And really, all of this really valuable information, important information is here for you as you're planning to attend your event on Saturday.
Look at this.
Last but not least, you may notice both the chat and QA functions are going to be mostly turned off tonight. And that's because there are literally thousands of people joining this call. Organizing at this scale is beautiful and it is overwhelming. And so we're going to do our best to answer the most common questions over the course of this evening that we've seen coming up across the board, rather than pretend like we can answer all of the detailed questions that everyone has as we're headed towards Saturday. And if you do have outstanding questions, one of the best ways to get them answered is to email events@nokings.org.
Send me all of your money for this, guys.
Additionally, at this point in the process, a lot of outstanding questions may be best answered by emailing your local organizer through the Mobilize confirmation form, or by talking directly with fellow attendees or event organizers about how your local event is coming together using local knowledge and context to inform your choices. We will continue to use this chat to send out recaps and reiterations of resources and tools throughout the call. So, again, thank you all so much for being here. Before I introduce our first speaker, who's very exciting, I want to take a moment to remind us all why we're here. Why No Kings? We are here to flip the narrative. Donald Trump is planting tanks and soldiers in the street to project power. But the story we're telling is one of nearly 2,000 events coming together across the country, across all 50 states, showing that power is everywhere else and that resistance is everywhere. We're going to pull off the largest day of protest of Donald Trump's administration. This scale matters. It shows that we're not isolated and we're not silent. We are the majority and we are speaking out. We want to reach and activate the unactivated. No Kings isn't just for folks who have been longtime activists. It's for people who are newly outraged, newly activated, and who are ready to come off the sidelines and join this fight. We're going to foster a real connection for ongoing engagement.
Good to see
and we're going to show up and say, no, we're building something bigger that we can carry together far beyond Saturday.
This is a trans person.
And finally, we're going to send a national signal that we won't be silenced and we won't be intimidated. So I want to thank every single person who is on this call right now for taking action,
buddy. My pleasure.
For joining us on June 14th.
My pleasure, Danny.
And coming together in peaceful resistance. We're here together now, and we believe that together on Saturday, we will be able to demonstrate our democratic ideals that we all share. And tonight, we have one of the leaders for those ideals from the United States Senate who fights every day to protect our democracy, to uphold the rule of
A
law, and
politician.
to call out and stop
Oh
authoritarianism and
my.
corruption.
Look at this.
Consistently, one of the loudest and sharpest voices rallying people to fight back against President Trump's power grabs. We are so thankful that he's joining us here tonight. Senator Chris Murphy from Connecticut. Senator Murphy, thank you for being here to inspire thousands of folks who will be out in the streets on Saturday to nonviolently defend our democracy.
Danny, thank you so much for having me. I literally chilled down my spine as I saw this call open up and the chat blowing up with thousands and thousands of protest leaders all across the country. This is absolutely what a movement looks like. And I'm so honored to be here to just underscore for you the importance of this moment and to reaffirm for you what you know, that you have enormous power, right? You watch elected leaders like myself and Senator Booker and others on TV, but our power is derivative of yours. We have no ability to be able to ultimately win this fight unless you are standing up in every way, in every place all around this country. And so let me just say thank you to Indivisible, to all of your partners for making this weekend possible. I think it may be that this weekend will go down as a key turning point in our movement to save our democracy, to stop Donald Trump from converting it into some kleptocratic oligarchy. Listen, this moment is super serious, and it is, not two stories, one about the president's disastrous economic agenda and another one about what he's trying to do to destroy our democracy. It's the same story. It's the same story. Because what the president is proposing, the bill that's before the United States Senate right now, is probably the most unpopular piece of legislation, major piece of legislation ever put before the United States Congress. New analysis came out today showing that this budget bill is going to make the poorest 30 to 40% of Americans even poorer, that it's actually going to take money out of their pocketbooks and out of their wallets in order to send money to the richest 1/3. The richest families in this country are going to get
is he a fascist? Is it the budget bill? Is it deportation?
$270,000 tax cut out of this bill. Most American families have no idea what it would be like to live on $270,000 a year. That's the new amount of money coming into the richest in this country. And it's going to pile $3 trillion onto our deficit. Nobody wants that. Nobody wants that. So the president has to try to destroy our democracy, has to try to crater the mechanisms of accountability to be able to get away with an agenda that is that unpopular. So the narratives are combined. What he is trying to do to steal from us, the corruption of this administration, with what he is doing to try to destroy our democracy. But what I know is that we have power to do things that the pundits think can't be done. And I think back to his first term when he was elected. There was certainty in the political class that they were going to deliver their number one agenda. And at the time, it was the repeal of the Affordable Care Act. Of course, they were going to repeal it. They controlled the House, the Senate, the White House. It was their number one campaign. For those of you guys who are joining,
I've crashed
and of course,
the No Kings Zoom meeting for this activist organization,
we made
Indivisible.
really sharp cutting
and this is them talking to a U.S. politician who is a treasonous traitor.
We built a movement. We lit up the phone lines. We protested in every corner of this country such that we created such volume that eventually just enough Republicans decided to vote with Democrats to save healthcare for 20 million Americans. And there are literally hundreds of thousands of Americans today who are alive because of what we did in the first year of Trump's first term. And to me, it is proof of what is possible when we organize. I saw it in 10 years as we built the anti-gun violence movement. They told us we would never beat the gun lobby, but for 10 years we organized. Right? My arguments didn't get better. The movement just got bigger. And we were able to pass the first anti-gun violence measure in 30 years in Congress. So we've saved countless lives.
And now it's about taking guns
away. Over and
away.
over again, we are shown what can happen when we organize and when we mobilize. We put enough fear into Republicans that just a small number of them do the right thing. And we sort of put courage fuel into the blood veins of Democrats, who often need a little bit of a push from their friends and their neighbors in order to stand up and be courageous and bold in the way that we need them to be. You will make a difference this weekend when you are out on the streets. And I hope that as you prepare for the weekend, you do
scumbags. Imagine seeing what we've seen in LA and then encouraging it all across the country. That only means one thing.
You will feel good. If this is your first one,
these people want to watch your country burn, America.
To their first protest. The feeling of camaraderie, the feeling of common cause that you will have as you are standing up for your fellow citizens, as you are standing up to protect our democracy, it will fill you with a sense of communion and a sense of hope. And if we didn't already know the stakes of this moment, they got underlined for us today. Obviously, we are all thankful that Senator Padilla was unhurt. He's a close friend and colleague, but what happened to him has to stand in context. What this administration is trying to do is to use violence or the threat of violence or the excusing of violence when it's used by Donald Trump's supporters as a mechanism to try to convince us to be quiet, a mechanism to try to shut up those that are speaking out against the corruption. And this weekend, happening right on the heels of the most egregious, high-profile use of violence by this administration against Senator Padilla, is our opportunity to show this country, this world, this administration that we will not be silenced, that you cannot bully us into silence. We will protest peacefully. This weekend, we will show how to speak truth to power, and we will confirm for the world and for Donald Trump that he cannot use violence or the threat of violence to erase our ability to save our democracy. In some ways, this weekend happening just 48 hours after the scenes we saw in Los Angeles as Senator Padilla was thrown to the ground, it couldn't be more important. It raises the stakes for how big and loud this protest needs to be. We are trying to save our fellow Americans from certain death. If 15 million people lose their health care, we are trying to save this democracy for our children, to make sure that it's around for at least another 50 years, if not another 250 years. And I will just leave you with this. I feel the same anxiety and anger and anxiousness that
smash that like button.
Every morning I wake up with all of those feelings, but I wake up with a different feeling as well. And it may sound counterintuitive, but I wake up every day filled also with joy.
You're literally speaking to a transgender about revolution.
I know I live in maybe the most amazing cultural, societal, and governmental experiment in the history of the world. What we have done for 250 years in America is kind of implausible, right? We have governed ourselves for 250 years, and we've done it in a multicultural, multi-ethnic nation in which we realize that our differences are our strength. No civilization in the history of the world has done those two things together. And
we got the live chat.
So it's natural that every generation ago it will come under assault. It is natural that there'll be a demagogue who comes along and says, you know, it'd be easier if you dispensed with the inefficiency of democracy. Just give power to me. It'd be easier if we all just retreated to our tribes and thought of each other as enemies and threats. And I think to myself, I could have been dropped into this world at any place at any time. And I got dropped into this world in the United States of America at a moment that the whole experiment is under threat. And so I wake up with joy that I get to order my life in a way where I'll get to tell my grandkids, maybe even my great-grandkids, that I was present at the moment of greatest threat to American democracy.
I was there during the Bolshevik Revolution of the United States.
And I held hands with millions of my fellow citizens who each exercised just enough courage in order to save this bold, grand, revolutionary experiment. And so I feel good that I just happened to be here in this country at this time
with this blue head
to be able to play a part in something that I think is history making. And I know that this weekend has the potential to be a turning point where it's not just one weekend, but it is a moment that we can build from to show the sustained passion for democracy, the sustained fight against corruption, the belief that we can build a country in which we care once again about the common good and shared prosperity. This weekend will be important in and of itself.
Is Red Fox in the chat, guys? Red Fox is the one who hooked me up with this meeting because I couldn't do it from Indonesia. Red Fox in?
Truly, truly special and sustained. So thank you.
For those of you guys who are just joining, I'm crashing this Zoom meeting. I'm inside this Zoom meeting.
This weekend. and rooting
for the No
you
Kings
on.
protest. It's a
Senator
mobilization
Murphy, thank
meeting
you so much. Your voice, your
for all of
leadership is so
the
needed right now.
rioters.
And you
this
heard
is
the
the
man.
host.
Bring your friends.
This is the
bring
transgender
your
host.
family. This is the weekend. Show up. Get out there. Our next
Can you
speaker
believe that this is
tonight
the host?
is
I mean,
Rocio
yes.
Saenz, the Secretary Treasurer of SEIU, and she's gonna be here to give us some insight into what we've been seeing over the last few days. Rocio.
This is just so great to be with all of you tonight, and after listening to Senator Murphy, just very inspiring. So let me just say, as you know, on Friday, during the ICE raid in Los Angeles, the president of SEIU, the United Service Worker West, USWW, David Huerta, he was arrested and injured. He was taken to the hospital and then into federal custody in LA. David was released on Monday afternoon after being charged with conspiracy to impede an officer. The charge alleges that he and others blocked the path of a law enforcement vehicle. And we are so relieved that David has been released and reunited with his family. We now demand that the Trump regime immediately drop these unjust charges against him. But let me just take a moment to appreciate how the progressive movement stood together to fight for David's release. There were more than 32 actions across the country on Monday where thousands of people came together, not just to say free David, but also to demand an end to the raids. There was so much support from our allies and elected leaders across the country, and I know together, across race and gender and faith,
I'm just researching about this woman.
We are powerful. But we know that this struggle is about much more than just one man. Thousands of workers remain unjustly detained and separated from their families. At this very moment, immigrant communities are being terrorized by armed forces targeting brown and black and API folks. And the fact that the Trump regime called in the National Guard and the Marine is a dangerous escalation to target people who disagree with them. The federal government should never, ever be used as a weapon against the American people. We know that they are targeting their political opponents,
she's a socialist.
as we saw today when Senator Padilla was handcuffed and possibly removed from a press conference just for speaking up for his constituents. If we zoom out and see the context and the timing of all of this, we know that Trump is creating a distraction. He doesn't want the American people to focus on the massive transfer of dollars away from vulnerable people to billionaires in his budget
it's about
bill.
The billionaires, guys.
We must not be distracted or divided. We must stay the course, control the narrative, point out his scapegoating of immigrants, and fight against this massive transfer of wealth. With that in mind, we are so excited that SEIU were part of the No Kings actions on Saturday. And let me just say another thing that is going to come up later this month. We're planning a justice journey with buses of workers headed from across the country to the detention centers in Louisiana to demand an end to ICE detention. Over 500 people have responded to join us, and that will be a whole narrative that we can drive for 6 days. We hope that you can join us on this journey. But let me end by saying this. What is clear in this moment is that people are in the streets and people are resisting the overreach by this administration. The No Kings actions will keep the momentum going and show that we are all standing together against this regime. As SEIU members, we're ready to join with all of you on Saturday. And I finish with Si Se Puede.
Yeah.
Thank you
SEIU,
so much,
socialist organization, helping to organize and fund these protests.
SEIU are doing in this moment.
Subversive
and to continue with our situational update, I'm very excited to introduce Michelle Ming, the political director from United We Dream Action.
Michelle Ming.
Thank you so much, Danny, and hi, everyone. It's so great to be here on this call. I feel so grounded to be here tonight.
So
it's
grounded?
clear from the 20,000 folks on this call across the country that Americans of all backgrounds and from all walks of life are eager to show up for each other in the face of what I can only describe as horrifying attacks against our constitutional rights, our democracy, and our communities. I can't stress enough how important it is to care for each other, to love each other, and to show up every single day with joy and resilience. What has been unfolding in Los Angeles is proof that young people, elders, students, parents are standing united with their communities and rejecting the hate, violence, and disappearance that isn't just impacting immigrants, but impacts all of us. And so let's be clear, this is all happening while they're working in DC to slash programs that help people across the country stay alive. Medicaid, education, money for climate disasters, money that they say we don't have, while millions are being spent to send the military after its own people. And while they want billions more to disappear from our immigrant neighbors.
Family, someone says.
They want us to be distracted at this moment. But we can't turn away.
Family.
This moment is about all of us, how we show up for each other and how we power our communities forward. I have the honor of introducing folks to Jackson, a member of United We Dream Action from Los Angeles. As LA is his home, Jackson is one of thousands of residents who's been showing up for his neighbors and is here today to share about what has been unfolding in his hometown and the importance of our collective solidarity and voices. And so with that, Jackson, I will pass it to you.
You are not going to get your
Thank you, Michelle. Hi, everyone. I'm Jackson, and I live in San Pedro in the Los Angeles area. And to no one's surprise, what has been unfolding in my home has captured national attention. I was at the rallies in downtown Los Angeles as ICE raids in my city and in my own community were taking place. When the news coverage often portrays a chaotic or even violent scene, being on the ground offers a completely different perspective. When I attended on Sunday, it was a gathering of concerned community members. I was surrounded by families, children, grandparents, young and old people alike, all united in their concern and shared outrage at ICE's aggressive actions and this administration's policies. The atmosphere was one of collective hope and determined solidarity, not aggression. People were gathering to make their voices heard. We moved through the streets as a community expressing its conscience. We marched peacefully, holding signs that called for the safety of our immigrant neighbors, chanting slogans of unity and justice, and offering water to one another. We cheered on the immigrants who contribute so much and make Los Angeles the incredible, diverse city that it is. Our actions were entirely focused on raising awareness and demonstrating our unwavering support for our neighbors. Then came the National Guard and LAPD. There was no provocation from the residents and civilians. And despite our peaceful assembly, tear gas, flashbangs, and rubber bullets were fired directly into the crowd. I was even struck by one of these rubber bullets, which I now have a souvenir on my desk.
Oh, stop there.
We were simply
You're not hardcore.
And constitutionally exercising our First Amendment rights to peacefully protest. Besides me were the same children, grandparents, and even people walking their dogs, all being fired at.
Nice. I can
None of this was happening under the cover of night,
figured that out.
nor was it incited by any actions of the concerned LA residents like myself. This egregious display of force by the military and ICE agents occurred at 2 o'clock on a bright Sunday afternoon in broad daylight.
So he's strong.
Being there on the ground reveals the truth of these demonstrations and the overwhelming majority of Americans from all backgrounds who reject the cruelty we're witnessing. It shows you the stark contrast between peaceful dissent and state-sponsored aggression. But let me assure you, like Senator Murphy said, there is no feeling like being on the ground, surrounded by your comrades, fellow community members, standing peacefully against the violent and reactionary agents kidnapping people from their homes, their families, and our communities. We must come together in times like this to show we will not stand for a violent state kidnapping our community members from their homes and from their schools and jobs. People who are our friends, our family members, and integral to the very fabric of our community. The removal isn't just an individual tragedy. It rips holes in our neighborhoods, leaving families who have lived here for generations scrambling. And to the young people listening, especially to those in high school, college, or just starting out like myself, this isn't just someone else's fight. This isn't just the fight of our immigrants. It's our collective fight. These raids directly break up our friends' families, they take classmates out of our schools, and they inject fear and chaos into the very communities we are growing up in and where we live in.
Yes, get the grift
Our
going.
future absolutely depends on the choices we make now. It depends on how we come together as the people who power our cities, schools, and neighborhoods and more. Your voice, your energy, and your presence are not just welcome. They're absolutely essential in this moment. This is your community and your future. Don't let others decide it for you. It's time to step up, get involved, use your platforms, speak out, and let's work together to build a truly just and compassionate country. one where everyone belongs and can live free from fear. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Michelle and Jackson.
Oh, this is just the most homosexual
Your
thing I've ever
message
seen.
is so needed right now, and your work
They're
is
not
so
even trying to
essential.
hide it. Look at this
and
guy.
Thank you to all of you who are on this call with us, who are taking action, who are getting ready for Saturday. We are thrilled that you're here to listen and learn with us and be a part of this moment.
Red Fox hooked me up with this stream, guys. He was integral
in this. We're really
in this.
excited. We have so many great
I couldn't get the link from Indonesia, so W's for Red Fox in the chat and for the grift,
Ezra
guys.
11 coming up.
Red Fox
Ezra
was my intelligence
is going
behind
to help us contextualize this moment as we head into Saturday, and then Ezra will introduce a very special speaker following that. So hand it over to you, Ezra.
Hey, great. Thanks, Danny. Hey, everybody. I'm Ezra. I'm one of the co-founders of Indivisible. It is great to be here. Let me start with something that I think everybody who is here knows,
Ezra
and just share that we all know this. Things are very alarming right now. We have heard this from the previous speakers. I think it is evident to all of us who are spending our Thursday evening talking about how we save American democracy that things are alarming. And the academics who study authoritarianism have a phrase for this. They call it autocratic breakthrough. Autocratic breakthrough. And this is characterized over the last several months by Trump firing internal auditors, by him empowering Musk to ransack the government.
Thanks for the big 20, Blaine.
Defiance of court orders. He's attacking law firms and media institutions and universities and businesses and nonprofits. This is what an autocrat does. And you heard from SEIU and UWD. Trump and Stephen Miller have this rapacious, vicious escalation plan, and it's in the form of these ICE raids, these detentions. These attacks in LA are a prime example, but they're not the only example. They are escalating to cause harm. Look, they want to cause human harm. That's part of it, but they're also escalating so that they can create chaos that then legitimizes further escalation. So while we see protests that are overwhelmingly peaceful, when some bad actors engage in property destruction or violence, the Trump team says, see there, now we need to escalate further. And that's Trump's plan. Rinse and repeat. It's straight from the authoritarian playbook, right? So all of this, all of these actions we've seen over the last week, they don't come out of thin air. All of this escalation isn't random. It is in the lead up. It is in the lead up to this birthday military parade that's going to cost something like $100 million of taxpayer dollars, this flamboyant and intimidating show of force that is intended to make Trump seem like a supreme leader of the United States of America. Now, I don't know how much of this is fully orchestrated. They fly by the seat of their pants. I don't know if they can find their butt with both hands, but we do know that it is scary and intentionally scary. That is what they are trying to do, because Trump understands something that is fundamentally true. Fear is contagious.
Well, check out this Israel-Iran situation after, guys.
Fear is demobilizing. And he is seeking to sow that fear so he can concentrate power in his own hands.
To hit Iran,
this is the world that we're living in right now.
Everyone's distracted.
But we know something fundamentally true too, and that's that courage is also contagious. When the fascists crack down on small-scale, nonviolent protests, what do we need? We need large-scale nonviolent protest. That's what works. Leaders, institutions, and everyday people who are currently on the sidelines trying to understand this moment need to know that defense of democracy is inevitable, overwhelming, and irresistible. They need to see it with their own eyes. And this is where the good news comes in. Look, we've got 20,000 people on this call. There are going to be millions of people out this weekend. When we heard that Trump was planning this birthday military parade, we got to work on No King's Day. We wanted to avoid any sort of counter protests in DC that would give Trump an excuse to crack down on protests. And instead, we said, we're going to organize everywhere else. And look where we are.
I bet you did. I bet this was just spontaneous.
2,000 events across every single state, 17 countries. There are 150 international events. We are going to show them, look, power does not reside in Washington.
Arrest
the power
him immediately.
is with the people in red, blue, and purple states, in rural communities, suburban communities, urban communities. All of these people are volunteers who showed up, looked around, and said, damn it, I guess I've got to do something. And what are we doing? We're showing up. Trump can have his pathetic little party in DC. We're everywhere else. We are flying American flags everywhere. We're featuring veterans on stage. We're showing up with patriotic zeal. Most importantly, we are showing up in force in red, blue, and purple communities in defense of our constitutional rights. At a time of autocratic breakthrough, Here's what we know.
And I'm one of them.
Here's what we know that actually works. There is nothing more impactful than showing up peacefully in your own community. And there is nothing more quintessentially American than showing up peacefully and petitioning our government for something better. That's how we formed this country in the first place. Despite how unsettling all of these escalations from Trump are, it does not come from a place of weakness. Or it doesn't come from a place of strength. It comes from a place of weakness. He is lashing out. He is testing the boundaries of his power. And we are pushing back to show him, no, you will not be able to do that. In America, we don't do kings. And that means taking action ourselves. So I'm going to ask everybody to do something.
So it's about
if you can pull out your phone
or
right
was it
now,
about the mass deportations? Or was it about the billionaires or the big bill?
No kings. One word.
Exactly?
NOKINGS. No spaces. To 59798. That's no kings to 59798.
Or maybe there was a certain country in the Middle East which these guys,
this is how we're going to be able to communicate in real time. This is how we're going to be able to follow up after the mobilizations on Saturday. And this is how we're going to be able to keep on
what they've just done.
Protesting, organizing, and saying to Trump and his lackeys, we don't do kings in America. So I'll see you out in the streets on Saturday. And until then, Danny, I think I pass it back off to you.
You do. Thank you very much, Ezra. And like
Dude, get
he
a hard
said,
drive check on this
is
guy.
Contagious, and I am
Get
truly
a hard drive
inspired
check on this
to be
guy.
out there on Saturday with y'all. Really appreciate that message, Ezra. So, folks, we're going to keep it moving here. We have so much to get to, and we still have a lot of special guests ahead that we want you to hear from. We have spent the first half hour of this call talking about the political context for No Kings, which has laid the groundwork for what comes next. Now, we promised y'all some resources and practical support as we head into Saturday, so our last few speakers here are going to do just that. I am very excited to introduce the one and only Britt Jakovich. She is the Deputy Communications Director from Move On, who is going to be sharing some message guidance, and she'll be followed by Mary Small, the Managing Director at Indivisible, who will talk about some action guidelines. And then our almost last speaker tonight will be Anu Joshi, the National Campaigns Director with the ACLU, who will give us a short Know Your Rights training. Britt, I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you, Danny. Yeah. Really excited to be here. And like Ezra and others said, courage is contagious. And you know what else it can be? Exciting. Are you excited? I'm excited. Excited to take the streets with y'all on Saturday. Excited to bring new friends.
Why do they speak
bring our
like
flags,
that?
Bring our pets, bring anyone we can to really show up in masses. And I'm really excited to be here tonight and support all of you as much as we can to have a fun, inspiring, and peaceful event on Saturday. So I'm here to give some messaging tips, like Danny mentioned, because one of the most important reasons for why we protest is to bring attention to our message and shift the narrative.
Are you excited?
The best thing we can do on Saturday is peacefully come together and talk loud and proud and lead with our why about these three things. 1, why are you showing up? 2, why are you hosting in your town? And 3, your story, your community, your voice. That's what moves people. But what may be even more important is your visible message. We know Saturday will be overwhelmingly peaceful, and we are heading into the No Kings rally with a clear mind that we are there to peacefully voice our dissent to this egregious, corrupt overreach since January 20th. And like many others have said, it's not just a small showing. Nearly 2,000 locations, and what we anticipate will be millions of people are showing up in the same peaceful way. That matters. That's impactful. And we don't want to give the Trump administration or right-wing media any reasons to put us on defense. Every sign, chant, and camera shot tells a story. So ask yourself, what do I want people to see when they scroll through social media, when they turn on cable news, when they show the latest Facebook posts to their friends? And we want all of them to see a powerful, diverse, peaceful crowd standing up together, no fear, no violence, to say that Trump's agenda is deeply unpopular. All for him, none for us. And that's not just a vibe, it's a deliberate strategy. Trump wants chaos on camera, and so we shouldn't give him any footage to use. And we win by showing the truth. We are joyful, proud, nonviolent in every corner of the country. The last thing I'll say, if you remember anything else, remember this. 2 things are true in this country. We have no kings, and no president can stop people from peacefully speaking out. And on Saturday, all of you and millions of others across the country will do just that. And with that, I have the pleasure of welcoming the wonderful Mary Small, Indivisible's managing director.
And you're a fucking socialist. It's on their website. Move on.
Great. Thank you so much for that, Brett. And so excited to be here with all of you tonight. My job is relatively easy here tonight. I'm just going to go over the action guidelines that are agreed on by the No Kings Coalition that guide all of the actions that are going to be happening on Saturday. So all 2,000 of those, here are the action guidelines that we are putting in place. And the link for these is going to be dropped into the chat if you want to take a look there. To just go through them, number 1, we exercise our right to assemble peacefully in public spaces. That means that we know our rights and assert them respectfully. Number 2, we remain calm, grounded, and composed. We lead with courage and model peaceful presence. And just being in that place of self-confident courage and presence that is peaceful can help create the visuals that Britt was just talking about and the atmosphere that we all want to have this Saturday. Number 3, we use de-escalation and mutual support to keep our community safe. The No Kings Coalition is committed to strategic nonviolent action. And along those lines, I want to pause here and name several resources that are available to all of you. These are going to be dropped in the chat, so please feel free to grab these links, to click on them, and make use of them. The first is a Peacekeepers Workbook. So this is a workbook to help prepare people for marshalling roles. It is not too late to actually reach out to your local host and volunteer to be a marshal on Saturday. Again, just to try to help keep everything calm and composed throughout the day. There's also a link to the Marshals training,
what they're doing,
which is a training that occurred last night, actually. But there's a recording of it that you can watch if you want to be trained up as a marshal. And the third is a de-escalation worksheet with the 6 Ds. Many of you have been on those trainings and already know about those. But I really encourage everyone here, whether you're a marshal or not, to just take a moment to review those before Saturday and make sure that you have at least a couple tools in your back pocket should you need them.
Bachelor of Sociology for this one, guys.
We amplify the message and not the mess. That means that we are going to stay focused on the cause and resist provocations that could potentially undermine the movement. So staying committed to why it is that we all decided to show up in the first place. Number 5, we support higher risk participants. This includes undocumented folks, trans and queer folks, BIPOC and disabled people, and others who may face greater risks for any variety of reasons getting to or being at events on Saturday. If we can go to the next slide.
Christ is king. Yes, he is, Sleepy Siren.
We respect the safety, privacy, and consent of everyone. So before photographing or live streaming others, especially higher risk folks, we check in and get their consent. But also we document misconduct by law enforcement or others when it is safe to do so. This looks like using tools like video, photos, or even written notes to record violations responsibly. Next, we prepare ourselves and each other. This means just knowing things like the meetup point, emergency points of contact, local legal support numbers, and exit plans. Share this information with your group, whoever you're going to a protest with. Always have a buddy. And just make sure that you have the information that you need throughout the day. And then finally, we take care of ourselves before, during, and after the protest. That means taking time to rest, reflect, and reconnect with your community before diving back in to take action together again. Because we know that No King's Day, while it's a huge, joyous, momentous, power-building and community-building day, is also not the end of this journey. And so we look forward to taking action together again after this weekend. With that, I have the pleasure of handing it off to Anu Joshi, the National Campaigns Director for Immigration at the American Civil Liberties Union, to go through a very condensed Know Your Rights presentation. Thank you for that heroic effort. I will note that folks are dropping the longer version of this training in the chat if you want to take a look at that.
Thanks so much, Mary. Hi, everyone. My name is Anu, and I'm with the ACLU, and I'm going to be guiding us through this Know Your Rights training. I'm actually going to be building on some of what Mary already started talking about, so that's great.
Yeah, are you?
And I'm just so glad you're all here because we need all of us, especially at the end of what has been a very tough week. So if we go to the next slide, before I get into your rights and what your rights are, I just want to talk about some of the best practices. And again, this is building on some of what Mary just covered. So if we go to the next slide, I just want to talk a little bit about safety planning before a protest. And what I want to say is that this can make a huge difference if things get tense or confusing on the ground, is just have a few things in place before you get to the event. So take a few minutes before you go
to
think about what could go wrong. And the goal here really is to try to prepare for some scenarios that might happen so you're not caught off guard. And so if there are moments where you're feeling tense or panicked, you've thought about it in advance and you have an idea of what you want to do. Make sure you have a protest buddy. Make sure that the person that you're going with has about the same risk tolerance as you do. And it's a really good idea to talk about that in advance. It's also good to talk about like things like how long you plan to stay, flags that would make you want to leave the event, how you plan to communicate with each other. You know, a lot of these events are going to be really, really large, which is fantastic. And it might mean that your cell phones don't work. And so you should have a plan on what you're going to do if you get separated, where to meet up, if you both are going to go home on your own and then check in. Just making sure you have that plan in advance will make the whole event a lot safer. Before you leave, it's also really important to choose an emergency contact who will not be attending the event.
True.
And just in case something happens, share what your plans are with your emergency contact in advance and let them know what kind of support you might need, whether it might be legal aid or just confirming that you made it home safe. It's really important that someone who won't be at the event knows that you'll be there and knows to check in. And that's especially important if you have caregiving responsibilities. You might want to consider giving that emergency contact a key to your home and preparing them to help take care of loved ones should it take you a while to get home. If you can't get home when you plan to be home, you just want to make sure that you have all of your bases covered. As Mary mentioned, all of these events on Saturday have amazing event organizers and safety leads. And so the first step to a good safety plan is knowing who your points of contact are. When you get to the event, hopefully they'll be pretty obvious. A lot of times you probably have noticed in the past, they're wearing, really ugly, bright yellow vests. They might have some other kind of clothing on them that indicates that they're marshals or event organizers or there to help keep you safe. So when you and your buddy get there, try to find them in the crowd so that if something happens, you sort of know where to look, who to enlist to help, because you're not there on your own. We're there as a part of a community. There's a lot of thought that has got into making sure that we all stay safe at these events. And then finally, I would just say, in this age of not needing to ever memorize anyone's phone number, it's a good idea to write important phone numbers on your body. So that way, if for whatever reason your phone gets lost, broken, confiscated, you have the ability to contact your emergency contact. It might be legal aid groups, bail funds, or whoever else that you think it will be important for you to reach out to in the event of an emergency, if you get lost, if you need help, if you don't have your phone. So those are some safety tips to think about before you get to the event.
Austin.
So if we go to the next slide, let's talk about
just a feminist.
What you should bring. So first off, let's
make
talk
sure you
about
bring your backpack.
Should you bring it
your
to a
Dora
protest?
the Explorer backpack?
And this really depends on so many things. And I want to talk a little bit about what the risks are of bringing a phone.
Make sure mommy packed you
fully
lunch.
Understanding that it might feel wild to try to even think about leaving your phone at home. Your phone keeps you connected with the outside world.
For those of you guys who don't know, I've crashed the Zoom call of the
and importantly, as Mary mentioned, you can record
behind enemy
events
lines
that are happening, especially in moments of escalation. I want to flag, though, that there are
and that's why you should send me
risks.
Lots of money.
If your phone is on, even if it's in airplane mode, there's a chance that your movements are being tracked. The only way to ensure that you're not being tracked through your phone is by not bringing it at all. If you do bring your phone, there's a couple of important things you should know.
How will I call my buddy?
You should obviously charge it fully before you go. You should turn off the biometrics and switch to passcode. So that means disabling the fingerprints or Face ID so that someone cannot unlock your phone without your explicit consent. And so really before you head out on Saturday, make sure if you can, turn off those biometrics, turn off the Face ID, use a numerical or alphanumerical passcode. If you bring your phone, try to keep it on airplane mode as much as possible, but understand that that is not totally protected.
Why would anybody have to worry about that?
And just make sure if you're using messaging, download an encrypted messaging app like Signal is something that we recommend, especially if you need to communicate with other folks that are at the protest.
But use Signal.
And lastly, I just really want to uplift what Mary mentioned, but be cautious and considerate when uploading to the internet,
don't forget to bring
photos
your
and videos
fluid.
you've taken at the events.
Steven.
Try to make sure that you don't share anything that clearly shows identifying features of other people. There's a lot of apps now that let you blur faces. One good option is to try to take pictures of people's backs watching the protest. But we just want to be really considerate and mindful of what other people's risk tolerances
The ACL, you are not going to do that, Doug. You're dreaming.
So let's talk about what to bring.
Snacky snack store, the Explorer bag.
We recommend that you bring a U.S. photo ID if you have one.
Lighter fluid.
We recommend you bring water, especially since it's in many places, it's supposed to be very hot on Saturday.
Bring your leaf
snacks, a little cash. Basic supplies can go a really long way at an event like this and in the event of an emergency. If you have essential medication, it's smart to bring at least a few doses just in case you can't get home in the time that you thought you would. You can bring a mask if you'd like. It may help protect you from facial recognition technology. I'll just flag that mask laws vary from state to state. And there are some states where law enforcement can ask you to remove your mask. Okay, so if we go to the next slide.
Of course, they've got a fucking
quickly, just what not to bring. We recommend that you don't wear contacts. We recommend this because although we fully anticipate that these are going to be peaceful, joyful events, in the event that tear gas or pepper spray is fired into the crowd, it can get trapped between the contact lens in your eyes and it can really cause pain and damage. So it's just much safer to wear glasses for protection. We also recommend that you leave anything illegal or even questionable at home. That includes weapons or drugs or even drug paraphernalia, even if it's legal where you live. And don't bring anything you can't afford to lose. So that you don't want to lose, that you don't want the police to confiscate, that you don't want to leave behind. That goes for sentimental items, expensive tech, or anything you'd be stressed about if it disappeared. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. So let's get into
who the fuck
your
made
rights.
this slideshow?
So if we go
it literally
to the
looks
next
like a
slide,
kindergarten slideshow.
what I want to start off with, it's really important for all of us to know that the Constitution protects everyone in the United States, and that's regardless of your immigration status or where you are or who you are. Now, having said that, we all know that the Trump administration has arrested immigrant leaders, activists, and students in retaliation. And so we want you to know your rights, and we also want you to think carefully about the risks, to create a safety plan, and if needed, we recommend consulting with a trusted immigration lawyer when deciding whether to participate in Saturday's actions or any protest actions. But our right to protest, march, and demonstrate is protected by the First Amendment. Now, it's important to know that the Constitution doesn't completely protect all types of free speech activity in every circumstance. So, for example, police and other government officials are allowed to place certain restrictions on speech in certain circumstances. And your rights to protest can vary based on a few very important considerations.
I think they said 20,000 people are in
the
this
biggest
Zoom call
one
before.
is whether or not you're on private or public property. And
look at
if you're
this
on
chat
public
on the
property,
side here, guys.
whether or
Can you see
not
this?
the event required a permit.
It says Jules G, indivisible staff, she, her, to everyone.
Let's talk about interacting with law enforcement, because we know that one of the risks of attending a protest is interacting with law enforcement. And so to protect yourself, if you come into contact with law enforcement, we recommend that you try to remain as calm as possible and never
Shouldn't they have like a
physically
sign language
resist.
person or something?
We recommend that you try to keep your hands visible at all times if law enforcement approaches you. Don't put them in your pockets. Try to keep them visible to law enforcement agents. And remember that law enforcement cannot detain you arbitrarily. They have to have reasonable suspicion that you've committed or are committing a crime. So if you are stopped, you can ask if you're free to leave.
Thanks very much, Be Radical.
And if they say yes, or if they don't reply, you can walk away calmly. Now, one of the questions that often comes up,
Chris, that is exactly what you're
when you're
hearing.
interacting with law enforcement is what questions you have to answer and what documents you have to show. There are some states, I think there are 7, where if law enforcement asks you your name, you have to tell them your name. In other states, you do not. You are allowed to remain silent. So I recommend that you take some time to research that and see if you are in one of those states. In the United States, if you are a U.S. citizen, you never have to show proof of citizenship to a law enforcement or immigration official, but they may hold you there for longer as they try to ascertain your immigration status. If you are not a U.S. citizen and you have some sort of immigration status, you do, if you are over 18, have to carry your immigration papers or copies of your immigration papers with you at all times. And if requested by an immigration
what do you guys
agent,
think of the new studio, by the way?
You have to show those
do you like
documents.
The lounge?
If you are undocumented, if you do not have documentation, you have the right to remain silent, and you have the right to consult with a lawyer before answering any questions that an immigration official might ask you. And I just want to flag there, the right to remain silent includes the right to refuse to sign any paperwork they may present you with. And as I mentioned, the right to wear a mask
knows what
also
aspect
differs state by
ratio
state,
is.
and so I encourage you to consult the laws in your state.
If I'm going to be honest with you there, Metal.
So if we go to the next slide. We covered this already, so we can go to the next slide. Okay, so I just really want to emphasize this. This is so important when we say it twice. You have the right to remain silent, even if you are arrested, and to speak to a lawyer before signing anything. If you wish to exercise those rights, say so out loud. Say, I am exercising my right to remain silent. You do not have to give any explanations. You do not have to give any excuses. You are not required to discuss immigration or citizenship status with the police, immigration agents, or other officials. And it is true that whatever you say
how they can commit crimes and
against you.
And then use
and you
loopholes
also
in the law
have
to
the
get away with
right not to consent to a search of your person or your belongings. And law enforcement agents do not have the right to search you without consent or probable cause. And what probable cause means is that law enforcement agents have facts that make it probable that you are committed, or in violation of a federal law or committing a crime. There is an exception that police may pat down someone's clothing if they suspect the individual is carrying a weapon. Okay, if we go to the next slide. As we said, we are fully anticipating that these events will be peaceful, they will be joyful, and that we will all be in community and keeping each other safe.
Yeah, we can smoke cigars in the lounge.
But we wanted to make sure you knew your rights if you are arrested by the police. I guess it's so important we're going to say it 3 times. You have the right to remain silent until you speak with a lawyer. You have the right to make a local phone call. And if you're talking to your lawyer, police are not allowed to listen.
Well, these peaceful
protests.
protests.
If you can't afford to hire an attorney, you will be appointed one on your court date. And if you can, it's best to post bond as soon as possible. And this is when that emergency number that you've written on your body will come in incredibly handy. Okay, if we go to the next slide. If you witness someone interacting with law enforcement and you are comfortable and you feel safe staying at the event, you should try and record the event. And that can be on your phone, taking a video recording, and it could be taking copious notes. And there are a few things that you should try to get if you can safely. And so that's so important to assess your own comfort level and make sure that you're safe. If you're able and the person arrested is comfortable and welcomes your support, ask them to share their name, date of birth, emergency contact, medical conditions. Write down as much of that as you can or record it on video so that you can transcribe it later. Write down a description of the arrest with as many details as you can get, whether that's the officers' names, their badge numbers, if they're in a car, the license plate number, who the agency is. Try to get where exactly you are, the exact address, as best as you can describe it, as much of that information that you can get down as possible. You can use this information to then contact either hopefully their emergency contact if you were able to get that information, or to let event organizers or marshals know as much as you can.
Right now.
Share it with a local community group or bail fund. Do whatever you can to get that information to someone who can help. If they let that person go, share that information, share all of that documentation. And if you have one, the video of the interaction with the person that was there. So we go to the next slide. And I just want to flag that this is so important. You have the right to talk about and publicize truthful information. Telling people their rights is your right. And so if you see someone interacting with law enforcement, it is your right to remind them that they have the right to remain silent, that they have the right to talk to an attorney, that they do not have to answer any questions or sign any documents until they've had that opportunity to talk to an attorney. If you go to the next slide. And I just want to say that everyone has the right, when they are present in any public space, to photograph anything in plain view, and that includes federal building and the police. On private property, there are different rules. The owner may set their own rules about what is allowed in terms of photography and video. But if you are in a public space, you have the right to photograph and take video of anything in plain view, and that includes the police. Additionally, police officers are not allowed to confiscate or demand to view your photographs or video without a warrant. They are also not allowed to delete data off of your phone under any circumstance. And this is true no matter what, regardless of your immigration status, regardless of whatever. You have these rights.
Thanks, Metal. I'll get Vinny to
police
fix
officers
that. He'll know what to do. We had to rush this morning because
activities that are interfering
I wasn't allowed on from Indonesia, so we had to get Red Fox to send over the intel, and then we had to get a VPN, and then we had to do it on OBS instead of StreamYard. So
you should continue.
We made it by the skin of our teeth.
But you should make sure that you back up and listen to police officer instructions. And I'll just end this section by saying that the First Amendment really typically protects the right to record images, video, images, and audio. Images and video. But the legality of recording audio varies, again, state by state, and some states require consent for those who are being audio recorded. So just keep in mind if you're videotaping,
like a long head.
It'd be good to know if your state requires consent in the chat, guys? In order to keep audio.
Why the long faces in the chat?
Okay, we go to the next slide. If you think your rights have been violated, write everything down. If you think someone else's rights are being violated, write everything down. And file a written complaint with the agency's Internal Affairs Division or Civilian Complaint Board. I'll also put in a plug here. The ACLU has affiliates in every state, DC and Puerto Rico. Share that information with your local ACLU affiliate, and they'll get back to you and let you know if they can get involved. So lastly, I just want to say thank you so much for all of you for showing up. The fight isn't easy, but it's so important that we all know our rights and exercise them this Saturday.
My civil liberties. Back to...
Thank you so much, Anu, and I am so excited to see you this Saturday, along with so many of you who are on this call. And now we're just about to wrap up, but before that, we are so honored to hear from a truly groundbreaking
This is a
voice
person
in
that would
Washington.
love to see the world
He's
burn.
an activist who has marched with us, who knows the power of the people firsthand, and knows how to bring the energy and the conviction that we need from the halls of Congress out to the streets. From Florida, fighting every single day for our democracy and against those who seek to tear it down, please welcome Congressman Maxwell Frost.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Hello, everybody. It's such a blessing and honor to be with you here today.
How did I know?
I'm Congressman Maxwell Alejandro Frost. I proudly represent Florida in the United States Congress.
Sure, and Maxwell.
I'm going to be very honest with y'all. Today was a very difficult day because, you know, I came into Congress this morning, went to an oversight committee, speaking with 3 governors, Pritzker, Hochul, and Walz. And I came in with a question that I wanted to ask them because here's the thing. A lot of people, and we have a lot of leaders talking about what's going on right now in hypotheticals, but none of this is a hypothetical. When they first got into office, Trump and his administration, they talked about arresting elected officials. And what happened? A mayor was arrested. They talked about arresting judges. And what happened? A judge was arrested. Then a member of Congress was arrested, LaMonica MacIver, who's been indicted on federal charges. And not just that, but then today, literally 2 hours after I was on the oversight committee and I asked the governors in front of me, what do you do when federal agents come to your governor's mansion and it's your security versus agents of the federal government? They're there to take you because Tom Homan said we're arresting governors.
Marjorie
what do you
Taylor
do?
Greene
I asked them
says
that
this
question,
guy's a part of Antifa.
And Republicans online and on the committee said, you're being overreacting, you're being hyperbolic. And 2 hours later, what happened? Senator Padilla, in his own damn state, went up to ask a question of Kristi Noem. And not only was he pushed out of the room, but he was thrown to the ground and he was handcuffed. And if this can happen to a U.S. senator, it can happen to anyone, as we've seen. We live in dangerous times, and that's why the mobilization this weekend is so important. Because what authoritarians always do is they're never satisfied with the power they have, so they break the law. First, they start breaking it just a little bit, then they do a lot more. But what they do is they break the law, they go above the line, and then they look to the people. If there's silence, what do they take that as? They take it as us accepting what has happened. They take it as us giving them permission to continue doing it. That's why this weekend is so important. It's not just about protesting one parade. It's not just about even protesting one person, but it's about protesting what is happening. That whether it's Donald Trump, Republican members of Congress who refuse to step up and defend not just our Constitution, our people, our humans, or the billionaires and the oligarchy that want to continue to rule our lives. This is about saying hell no to all of it. And I want to tell you, I've been so inspired
those Democratic
by
donors?
the nonviolent protests we've seen across this nation. And yes, we all know that most of this, like 99.999% of all the protests across the country has been nonviolent. But we know what Trump does. He lies. And then he sends the military, the U.S. Marines, people who pledged an oath not to Donald Trump, but to our Constitution and to protect our people. He sends the Marines, people who are trained to fight wars and to win, not to de-escalate a protest in Los Angeles. And the reason why we all have to care about this is because Donald Trump he's testing things, but he's also trying to squash dissent. There's a lot of people who want us to believe that this is just a distraction. And I actually want to encourage everyone to not use the word distraction, because that implies that you shouldn't look at one thing and you should look at the other. It's not just a distraction. What he's doing is he wants to enable the Republican Party to pass this evil budget. Because the only way you can take away health care from 15 million Americans is if you squash dissent and you suppress the First Amendment. whether it's the military or federal officers throwing a senator to the ground and handcuffing them. Right when I saw that video, I ran down to the Oversight Committee to motion and move us to subpoena Kristi Noem. We, the Congressional Hispanic Caucus, we marched across to the Senate floor to tell Thune he needs to stand up for his members, whether Democrat or Republican. But we also know that this fight isn't just in the institution, it's outside of it as well. And us banding together through nonviolent protests. I don't want to say something really quick about nonviolent protests, because it's not just about optics or because it's the right thing to do, but strategically. If you study movements, not just in America, but around the entire world, the ones that are most likely to win are the nonviolent movements that capture the hearts and souls of people across the country, but across
study
the world.
Revolutions around the world,
as we
and
take
it's the
to
nonviolent
the
ones
across this entire country, I know that it's going to be incredibly powerful, and it's going to overshadow any parade that this authoritarian dictator wants to do. So I appreciate you all so much. I'm sending you so much love. Be safe out there.
Yeah, we're nearly hitting that goal already, guys. Let's go. Continue the grift for this intelligence that I'm providing
because know your rights trainings are not just for undocumented people or people with a different status. It's for all of us. What Trump is trying to do, what Tom Holman wants to do, is they want the whole country to be ICE, to be reporting each other. So what we have to do is the opposite. We have to know each other's rights. That way, when they come for your neighbor, when they come for your neighbor's children, when they come for you or anybody, you know exactly what your rights are, but not just what your rights are, but what the rights are of your community. And that's how we're going to get through this. So God bless you all. We'll see you out there, and let's continue to fight. Thank you.
Scumbag traitor.
Thank you so much to Representative Frost. We love hearing from you. We look forward to seeing you out there on Saturday. And to all of you who were on tonight, all of our speakers, all of our attendees, we are so thankful that you were here with us. We are going to be dropping all of these links one more time in the chat. We will also send a follow-up email to everyone with these resources. Thank you again. We will see you on Saturday for No Kings.
Oh, this is awkward, isn't it? Quickly. He's got some extremely horrifying things to go and watch on the internet. All right. So that's that, guys. All right. So what do we get from that? A bunch of revolutionary or LARPing revolutionary activists who want to obviously come in and claim to be mostly peaceful, even though they've seen exactly what's been happening on the... they've been seeing exactly what's been happening in Los Angeles and all of these different cities around the United States. They know exactly what is going to transpire.